So I want to talk to you about kind of community building, right? Both in the context of your own channel as well
Mm,
as in the context of the brand. So, it's something that I've really come around to over even just the last few years as
mm,
I've seen, the value that our community delivers to us, right? Whether
mm,
it's a podcast or we do summits, we do all of these things. And it's like, because we've been working on this for almost 10 years, and we've built up this kind of community of relationships and allies. It's just
mm,
incredibly powerful, right? So
mhm.
I'd be curious, kind of what did it look like for you in terms of building out your community as an individual content creator, and then what did that also look like as a brand, right? What did that look like doing it as a brand, and what have been some of the differences? Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a really spot on question. And also I would be really curious about like how you built that community around you because I think as your business is more B2B and a based business, I would be interested in seeing like what kind of things you did to form that community or retroactively looking back like what did you do right and looking back like how did you create that community. So for me I think it was pretty similar to be honest in terms of how I built my community on YouTube and how Crave Beauty has nurtured and cultivated its own community online. But I think there's definitely a lot of brands out there where you create a whole culture around it and you sell that kind of aspiration or you sell that kind of specific lifestyle that kind of gathers the like-minded people. I think a good example is like Glossier, Lululemon, or Tesla, or even like Apple. Like they have that kind of certain coolness to it or aspirational aspect to the business and to the brand where it attracts their own tribe. And I think those are good, but it also felt can sometimes feel very exclusive because if you're not the part of the gang, like you're not part of the gang, like you can't really sit with the people who's like who belongs there. So
Like,
it
oh, you're a
almost
Microsoft person? Like, oh, you stay over here, right? Like,
exactly,
oh,
exactly.
you use Teams? Like, ooh,
Oh my god, I'm kind of guilty of that.
Totally. I
To be
absolutely
honest.
shame people for using Google Meets or Teams or anything else. I am like a Zoom zealot. Like, if you use anything else, you're wasting my
You have
time.
a green bubble on your message.
Ooh, green bubble, huh?
No, I can't be that exclusive. But anyways,
But I mean, regardless of whether we personally are, that's a
yeah,
thing, right? Like,
yeah,
and it defines, like, in some ways, it's a badge, right?
yeah.
It's like you have like clothes and there's badges you have, right? And these are the things that define who I am as a person. You kind of align yourself. It's a real thing.
Building my own business with KraveBeauty, that's I thought I wanted that, like that aspirational something that people so aspire to be that they feel almost like coming into that club or sitting on that
Yep.
lunch table is cool. But I think the more I think about it, Crave Beauty is not really an exclusive company, but we're here to really
Mhm.
include and handhold everyone. So for us, it was really about humanizing the brand. Like people eventually want very, very simple things. Like customers, as long as they feel included, as long as they feel like they have a stake in the brand, as long as they feel like they have a voice in the brand, I think that's when you can really quietly like gather people one at a time. And I think a lot of founder led brands are really amazing at this, where it's as easy as involving the customers into how you make decisions for the company. And once you break down that wall or kind of give up the authority as a I'm a brand and you're a customer, you break that wall and really humanize the brand and just communicate it as a person to another person. You're not only breaking down the barrier, but you're also inviting them to have a voice in how we make decisions and also sharing the same value sets too, because we don't want communities output for the sake of communities output. We want a very constructive dialogue and conversations. So I think that's how Crave Beauty has built its own community. And I think that's how I built my own community on my personal channel too. And it was really special because first of all, we don't have a shareholder or we don't have any
Yep.
boards on our company at KraveBeauty, which is a huge privilege, but we also use that to our advantage of
Yep.
really prioritizing our stakeholders, which is our customers, our internal employees. So in the end of 2020, we held a virtual stakeholder meeting, inviting every customer who have purchased at least once and inviting everyone to join on the last day of December or the last day of 2020 to, and little did I know, people actually showed up, and I think the turnout was over 500 people logged in from all different countries and all different cities across the nation on the last day of 2020. That's how they wanted to spend their last day of 2020. So I think it kind of shows to tell that it's really important to have that human aspect of the business if you were to build a community.
Well, and one of the things that I think is really important there too, right, is you said 500 people, which, is a lot of people, right? If I were to try and fill up a room, that's a ton of people in a single room, right? But often, I think marketers say, oh, well, like, that's only 500, right? That's not that many people. But that connection that you make is so meaningful, right, with those people that it has all of these kind of secondary effects, right? Where like they are going to be customers for life when they go out that night. They're going to talk about this cool event that they had where they get to talk to the founder and meet the team and blah blah blah. It's people sometimes can get too caught up in the numbers, right, and not realize, like, imagine filling a room with 500 people and then having that one-to-one connection with
Mm.
people all over the world. Like, that's so special. And so I love that. I'm super into it. um,
Yeah. How do you think you built your own community?
it's a good question.
Because
I
I feel
mean,
like yours is more high touch.
definitely more high touch. So, right. So, smaller number of people, but I think the people that we interact with, are very impactful for us, right? And very impactful, I think, broadly. So, I would say the process for me. So, when we first started out, we said, hey, we want to start creating content, right? So, we
Mm.
think that we can grow in this way. And frankly, the approach that we've taken to marketing is very similar to the approach that we recommend to our brands, which is, anyways. So we start creating all this content and people start subscribing to us. And at the beginning, you might have like 20 people or 50 people on your mailing list, right? It's a small number of people. And so what I would do is, and so I started going on these trips. So I'd fly to New York and I'd just reach out to like all the people that were reading our reports on our mailing list. And it could be like a student, it could be an assistant professor, it could be, a brand marketer or a coordinator, right? Somebody far down the chain. I'm like, hey, let's get together. Would like love to learn from you. Happy to talk about what we're seeing that works,
Mm.
et cetera, et cetera. And so it was just like thousands and thousands of meetings, like one-on-one
Wow.
meetings, right? And I think in every one of those meetings, the thing I tried to think about was like, what value can I deliver to this person? Like, how can I help them? And if you start there, right, if you start with that, then inevitably, they return that favor most of the time, right? They say,
Mm.
hey, well, how can I help him? Right.
Yeah.
And doing it without having that be an expectation or being it a request coming in, like, I'm not expecting them to do anything. I'm not requiring them to do anything, but I am trying to proactively help them as best that I can, given the resources that I have, whether that's network or that's knowledge or that's data or whatever it is. Just works out really well over time, right? And it's not easy to do, right? To do it for so long and so many
Mm.
times. But I do think it worked really well for us. And I think we tried to take that approach from a content perspective.
Mm.
We try to take that approach in most of the things that we do, I think.
Mm.
Um, trying to deliver more value than you ask in return or that you expect in return.
Yeah.
And I think it works.
Yeah.